Welcome. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. 28 months after a long, laborious process started, the big Brexit deal is finally done. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced that an agreement has been reached in a tweet today that would outline the UK's exit from the European Union. Indian markets responded positively once the announcement was made, in line with global markets. But there are still a lot of buts. The UK Parliament has to agree, and opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn is in no mood to. The EU Parliament needs to ratify the deal as well. So let's come to why this is important though. The deal is likely to impact the world economy. In fact, the world has been waiting with bated breath to see what comes out of it. And the impact will extend to India as well in some parts. So will it be good for us or bad? And why does Brexit matter to India? To speak on all this and more, I'm joined this evening by a very special panel of guests. Jayant Das Gupta, former ambassador to India at the WTO, market expert Ajay Bagga, and Professor Gulshan Sachdev from the JNU. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us. Mr. Das Gupta, let me begin by asking you to explain in very simple terms to us the basic question. Okay, Brexit deal is announced. Why should we care?
Of course, the first thing is that the Brexit deal has to go through Parliament, and then the European Council has to agree to it. After that, I think the details will have to be worked out. And of course, if there is stability, there is an agreement, then investors can start looking forward to investing and growing their businesses, and from there the virtuous cycle can start. But while there is uncertainty, the shares will be, share market will be down, investor sentiment would be subdued, and the growth not only in Britain but in the EU, which is dependent on Britain, will also suffer. So it is going to be good for not only the European Union and Britain, but the rest of the world as well. And India has a lot of investments in Britain which cater to the EU market, whether it is software, whether it is autos, and a lot of other industries. So if there is a stable Brexit deal, it would help Indian industry as well.
Okay, Mr. Bagga, can you explain this to us? Is it as simple? And the way I understand it, there are a host of Indian companies that have made huge investments in the United Kingdom. In fact, is in the top 3 for scale of countries that have invested in the United Kingdom. And now a lot of these countries made investments assuming that they would have equal access to the European Union markets. Absolutely. So is it bad news for these companies?
Well, Brexit will be bad news, and it will all depend on what is the complexion of the deal.
Yeah.
Today the deal which has been announced, the brief contours that have come in the media, Tamanna, that's a deal which was on offer 2 years back. It's basically splitting United Kingdom between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland stays as a separate customs area, and Great Britain does a Brexit.
But they've managed to remove the backstop problem. In the sense, they've managed to make sure checks are not at the border but in the mainland.
Yeah, so Theresa May was not agreeable to that, and this deal was offered 2 years back, so it's nothing new. It's a lot of spin by Boris Johnson and his party. It's basically trying to keep the party together. But overall, the Irish Unionist parties will not agree, so that's 10 votes gone. Last night, the estimate was that the deal passes with 1 vote, with 9 Labour rebels supporting the deal. But if the 10 DUP members don't vote with this deal, then there's no deal. Plus, there are 2 court challenges, because United Kingdom cannot be split up into different tax and custom zones. So there is a challenge in the Scottish High Court tomorrow. There's one more challenge on another part, which is beyond the scope of this program. So I would be skeptical that the deal goes through. But I would agree with the professor, for Indian companies, we need certainty. And what will happen is 27 other countries in the EU will need to have single, trade deals with the UK. UK will have to go ahead and sign trade deals with a lot more countries. So anybody, especially people like Jaguar Land Rover, our software, pharma companies which have plants there, Tata Steel which has plants there, all
Yes.
these companies have a lot of uncertainty with Brexit. But this is the start of Brexit, it's not the end.
Yeah.
It will take 2 to 3 more years from November 1, even if the deal is ratified on Saturday.
Okay, so a long time to go. There could be a possibility of a no deal, Brexit taking place as well. Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the European Commission, is saying he sees no reason for there to be, a longer wait. But let's see how it all works out. I'm very pleased to welcome Lord Meghnad Desai to the show. Lord Desai, if you can explain for all of our viewers why this matters, especially to the global economy.
I think, as someone said, it's not yet done, but the UK economy is the 5th largest economy in the world. And if it suffers a major shock, even for 1 or 2 years, the repercussions of that will fall on the global economy. And the global economy right now is in a fragile state anyway, and it could turn into recession if the UK economy was to go, say, 5% down in the next 2 years. So from that point of view, but nobody in the world can help them because this is a problem created by the UK for itself. And the constitutional problem is very complicated, the geographical problem is complicated, and there is very little goodwill left in the politics. People are very divided. So some people wish the deal would not go through, but they want to prolong and negotiate some more and take another 6 months for a deal. That just enhances the uncertainty. So my hope is that this deal passes, and once the deal passes, uncertainty is reduced, and then we can go on to adjust to the new circumstances.
Point you made, Lord Desai, and let me come back to you on that. The uncertainty is the issue, and business hates uncertainty, global economics hates uncertainty. Looking at what domestically politicians are saying, what Jeremy Corbyn is saying, and what the DUP is saying, do you see this prolonging painfully?
I think, I've thought for a long time that Theresa May's deal was the best deal possible. And the Parliament rejected it again and again for various reasons. Now, Boris Johnson has clarified a little bit, and he's hived off Northern Ireland more effectively than before. If the DUP agrees and if the deal goes through, then we can make it work. But Jeremy Corbyn's idea is a second referendum and then further negotiations. And I think we can't have further negotiations because the central conundrum of Northern Ireland sharing a territory with the Republic, which is within the EU, one part within the EU, one part outside the EU. And if you can't have customs checks, then you can't be out of the market. You have to stay in the EU.
Yeah.
Nobody explained that to anybody before. So that is a difficulty.
Lord Desai, I've been speaking to the panel here, and for a lot of our viewers who are watching right now, trying to understand that what is the impact for India? Why should we care? Does this really impact us one way or the other? What do you make of that?
I don't think UK matters to India. India is too big, and at best we could relocate to EU anywhere. We are not prevented from relocating to EU, and we are there due to historic reasons. But having a steel company in the UK is a loss-making proposition, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think India has to worry too much about UK, and what India is into may be effective maybe for the next 3-4 quarters, but ultimately it will recover. So I think the Brexit thing is uncertainty being over, a small shock, and then the economy will recover. So I'm not worried in the long term about the UK economy, nor about India's relation to the UK.
Absolutely. Please do stay on with us, Lord Desai. I want to come to Professor Gulshan Sachdev for his point of view on what we've seen. So we've determined there may be some impact on Indian companies that have invested in the UK for now. But overall, do you think if we are going to go through months of uncertainty, this will have an impact on the global economy? This is a point that the IMF has already made, international organizations have already made.
Well, that's true. In fact, as mentioned by Professor Meghna Desai, this UK economy is very important, and the kind of Brexit uncertainty which has been going on for the last 3 years now, this has obviously affected so many business decisions, and also that affects Indian companies, because EU and particularly now UK is an important market for Indian companies. But this deal, the way things are happening now, the best deal for perhaps for UK would have been to continue to be with the EU for us. But that's their decision. This what but now the worst scenario could have been if there was a no deal Brexit. Now for the last many months, both EU and UK, they have been trying to kind of avoid that kind of situation. So now my feeling is that the Brexit drama still may not be over, because it's just an agreement between the negotiators. Today, the Prime Minister of the UK and also the European Commission President, they have endorsed it, but it will go to the European Union institutions, and also it will go to the British Parliament. But and if you look at, it was very clear from the EU side that that was the only deal which was possible, only deal which was at the table. And now if you can see, even with the new deal, there are only 1 or 2 small changes which have been made, particularly with the Northern Ireland and Ireland, and also some small changes on the agreement, the political agreement, which anyway is just a symbolic in a sense, the political agreement, because only thing which in fact the UK is saying that now, which is slightly clarity for us, is that now they want just have a FTA with the EU. That's the ambition they have. So it means obviously they are not going to be part of the customs union. They are not going to be part of any other kind of economic area within Europe.
Right.
So now, if India has to negotiate with the European Union, the FTA which we are negotiating, then we are clear that ultimately UK will not be part of that. We have to have, at the same time now, even and the kind of agreement with the Northern Ireland, what they have,
yes,
which if the deal goes through, would be that they'll continue to be part of EU, at the same time also they continue to be part of the British territory, the custom territory. So in that sense, there is now possibility that India can start FTA both with the EU as well as also
okay,
with the UK as separate negotiation. So some kind of clarity is there, but anyway it was not going to be affected in the immediate anyway, because for the next 2-3 years, even if up to end of 2020, you have a transition period, but that transition period also could perhaps would be extended for another 1 or 2 years. So there is slightly more certainty now, but I don't think drama is over yet. It will continue for some more time.
Yeah, the next leg we might see as early as Saturday. Lord Desai, you indicated you wanted to come in. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what one of the arrangement is that a free trade deal will be negotiated with the EU at a double speed, because Boris Johnson has said UK accepts the common market rules, and having accepted common market rules, a free trade treaty between UK and EU will be concluded much quicker than we had thought before. So I think that within the transition period, the free trade treaty will be established, so UK-EU trade will be all right.
Okay, Mr. Dasgupta, let me come to you with a little more focused Indian perspective. Does this give us an opportunity to review free trade agreements and our trade deals with the UK specifically? Which is something we've hoped to do for a while. The question is for Mr. Dasgupta. Yes.
Are you asking me?
Mr. Dasgupta, if you can hear me. Yes.
The UK by itself is not a very large market. Yes. Yes, please.
Yes.
The UK by itself is not a very large market, and our first preference would be to conclude the EU FTA, which we started in 2007, and I think the government has made up its mind to resume the talks. So that would be on priority basis, and after that there could be other priorities as well. the UK will of course figure on the list, but where exactly in the terms of priority I don't know. Now, one of the things which will happen automatically if Britain gets into a free trade agreement with the EU is that companies from India which are located in the UK will benefit from the existing facility of passporting, which means that they can shift their businesses within the EU 27 and there wouldn't be any regulatory clearances required. So that is going to be very important. So we look forward to Britain entering into an FTA if the Brexit deal goes through by 31st of October,
Yeah.
and by 2020 end or 1 or 2 years after that, if Britain gets into an FTA with the EU, that would be very helpful for India.
Okay, Mr. Bakar, let's come specifically to some of the impact on Indian companies that we were talking about, which ones you will be watching over time, and if we're looking at a transition period of 2 to 3 years, that should mitigate some of the hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And companies have been taking, measures, especially the international financial companies have been moving to Frankfurt, Paris, looking at other centers. So what you need is flexibility, agility. The way Indian market went up today, I think that was a fool's move. Be careful, especially Monday is a holiday for us. So, what happens on Saturday, we don't know, Tamanna. And tomorrow also there are 2 court cases that come up in high courts, one in Scotland, one in London. So the courts might put a stop to it, we don't know. So I would be very careful on moving based on this news flow itself. Yes, in a broad sense, companies have to be agile, they have to be flexible. We don't know what will be the ultimate contour and how if there will be a zero tariff agreement between EU 27, the 27 countries in the European Union and the UK, because that is contingent on UK signing on environment and labour standards that the EU follows, which Boris Johnson has said he is not wanting to do. So will they just politically agree to it and then later on be in violation? One doesn't know. But there are a lot of ifs and buts, and this is the start of Brexit. We were live, Tamanna, I remember in June 2016 when the referendum came, the markets went down very sharply and we recovered in a day.
Yeah.
The market digested it. And so UK, this impact has been largely factored in. There will be a marginal impact. Today, if you see the pound positions in the market, I was just seeing the terminal before we started the program. There are more puts being bought. So there is more risk that traders are anticipating, then they are seeing a rally over at least the next 3 months. So we should be careful. I would caution Indian stock players not to take positions based on this tomorrow.
No, so this may have been flavor of the moment. Global markets also ran up, and it was at least like there is a move towards a deal. So maybe a beginning of an end of uncertainty. But another very interesting thing, and Lord Desai, I'd love your perspective on this, is how much division Brexit has caused within the UK, even at this stage, when you have the Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying, okay, I have a deal. There are more than enough people who don't want any kind of a deal, who don't even want to exit. So a very basic agreement on what is happening in the UK and exiting the EU has still not been reached, and that may cause hiccups one way or the other.
Well, ultimately on Saturday, first of all, will the deal pass or fail?
Yeah.
The Liberal Democrats are going to introduce an amendment to whatever the proposition the government puts down and say, before we can vote on this, there should be a second referendum on the deal. Do you like the deal or not? And now, if that passes, then there's another big gap about organizing a second referendum and all that. So the 31 October deadline will definitely pass. We'll have to go into an extension, maybe to 31st of January. So that's one uncertainty. Suppose that doesn't pass, but the deal fails itself. Then we are back to square one, and then Boris Johnson has to apply for an extension to 31st of January. If he refuses, a new government will be formed after a no confidence motion, and the new government will start new negotiations with the EU.
No, so we've determined that this is far from over. What is all the euphoria about then, Professor Sachdev? Because we're seeing Jean-Claude Juncker also looking extremely happy that they've reached some kind of agreement, some kind of deal. This looks like the first step of step one.
Well, in fact, I missed half the thing, but what I could gather from you was, there is a euphoria in the sense that, as I said, both EU and UK were trying to avoid no deal Brexit. Now, still we do not know, but it's becoming quite clear that there is a possibility that at least it will be, they have been able to avoid no deal Brexit. So how it's going to happen, it's going to take, as I said, uncertainty will continue for quite some time, but at the same time, the major uncertainty that, by the next few days, things are going to, because both EU and UK are simply not prepared for that kind of breakup, because for the last 45 years, the kind of linkages between UK and the other European countries and the European market, the half of the trade of the UK is with the EU. So now that's the only relief. Now beyond that, all details, all politics, that I think will continue for quite some time. So I don't think things are going to be resolved in a hurry. But only thing is that perhaps the catastrophe which was going to happen, and some people and some companies already started preparing for that kind of hard Brexit. Perhaps that may not happen. Beyond that, still we do not know. Still, I think many more things are going to happen, and many more surprises are going to follow.
Lord Desai, last word from you. What are some of these surprises that you see coming up ahead?
What Brexit has revealed is that politics is completely divided. Before, when Theresa May was still in power, we had what was called indicative votes in Parliament, non-binding indicative votes, and 11 different solutions were proposed, and none of them got a majority in House of Commons. So, while some people want to remain, other people want a different kind of deal from the deal Boris Johnson proposes. Some hard Brexiteers want a no-deal exit.
Yes.
So there isn't. Now the interesting question is, will Boris be able to stitch together some kind of a fragile coalition? Majority of even one vote will do. If he gets that, then a whole game changes. Then he's really on a winning ticket. And then he'll call an election and he'll get a majority. No doubt.
Well, a lot to wait and watch for the entire world, including India. If I were to summarize what all of our experts have told us today, is Brexit important for the world? Yes. More for what happens in Europe and the United Kingdom, but it will impact world economies to some extent, especially in Europe and UK. Does it matter to India? To some extent, but not quite so much. There is also a lot of time for us to actually see a deal come through, even more time for it to be implemented. So wait and watch for today. I hope that helped all of you understand what the big fuss is about. Yes, Lord Desai.
UK is going cheap. India should buy a lot of UK.
It's a great sales pitch to round off the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you to all of you as well. That was debate 1 on the India development debate. Very important conversation coming right up. We're talking about Delhi pollution. Yes, it happens every year. And as usual, almost to sound the bugle that pollution season is here, we have an announcement on odd even rules, who will be exempt. This year we also know what the fines will be. But is that really the question? The real question should be that after all of this time and all of this effort, why haven't we been able to crack the Delhi pollution problem? Really, are we that incapable of solving this? We're coming back with that debate. Don't go away.